Hey guys, how's it going? It's Rustbelt Collector here once again with another Black Series review, and today we are taking a look at the 6-inch Star Wars The Mandalorian Incinerator Trooper. This is one that I was really excited to get, not just because it's from The Mandalorian. I mean, obviously there's a lot of hype with that show, sometimes a little bit too hyped in my opinion, but I'm actually more excited because this is kind of one of those, like the Imperial Stormtrooper Commander releases where it's kind of a Legends character, because this is also from Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which isn't really canon anymore, and so it's kind of cool to have that little bit of, I don't know if you'd call it nostalgia. I mean, that game came out a long time ago, but it's kind of a mashup, you know, because it is from The Mandalorian, but it also really draws heavily from the older Legends Incinerator Troopers, but either way, I'm really happy to have it. As we've seen multiple times before, this is the new Black Series type box, so you have the new color coding to represent this is from The Mandalorian. Then you have the nice artwork on the side. Here's the standard Stormtrooper, the Incinerator Trooper, and the arm of the Armorer, a figure I probably won't pick up, just because it is coming out in 3 3/4 inch, and that's going to be my focus since, yes, I did back the barge, so any figures from The Mandalorian I get really need to be in TVC scale, but, you know, on the back, here's like your standard little bio about the character, kind of short for this one, another artwork piece. This is number 3 in the Mandalorian wave, or like the Mandalorian Black Series line, and it will stack up very nicely next to the Stormtrooper. I don't have the Mandalorian in Beskar armor, he would go right here. And you know, he's like the most popular one in the wave, so I don't expect that I will ever get that figure, but it's okay. I'm not trying to go completionist with this by any means, and I kind of, like I said, I'm focused on 3 3/4 inch Mandalorian figures, but I couldn't pass this one up because it is a Stormtrooper. With all that said, let's take a look at the figure out of the packaging. And there we go. We have the Incinerator Trooper in hand. Now, he's got a lot of accessories hanging off him here, so I gotta kind of figure out how to get those better attached. Now, one thing that people did point out is that his backpack is upside down in terms of how it should be in the show. These canister ending pieces should be up here. So I probably will customize this figure at some point and just swap those around. But for now, for the sake of this review, we will just take a look as it comes out of the packaging. Now, I believe this is the second figure that we've gotten in this new Stormtrooper mold. We definitely will have more coming soon. I think the Remnant Trooper was just announced as like a Target exclusive using this same mold, and we're going to be seeing that a lot more frequently. But yeah, overall, I'm a big fan of this mold. I just realized now, actually, that I never uploaded the review of this guy, the standard plain shiny trooper in this mold. I did a review on it, and I just never actually uploaded it, so I guess this is a 2-for-1 deal. You're getting a review of basically the new Stormtrooper mold as a whole, and also this Flame Trooper, because they are the same mold, just with different accessories. Now, right off the bat, if it's any indication as to how much I like this mold, I've actually gone ahead and sold all but 2 of my Stormtroopers in the old mold, in this mold right here. The articulation in this figure is just so far superior that I just can't stand this old mold anymore. So I ended up selling off all my Stormtroopers and Sandtroopers, kept this one and one of the Commanders, and that was it. But yeah, what can I say? It's a good figure mold. They definitely made some much needed improvements to this figure. So I guess starting off, we'll take a look at the accessories as usual. We've already taken a look at the backpack, but it is nicely sculpted. The wiring or tubing comes up around here and attaches to his gigantic flamethrower weapon blaster. I don't know. Kind of looks like the back end here looks like the Rogue One Shore Trooper blaster, which is a nice little callback how the weapons kind of have some uniformness across the different designs and types. And then, of course, this all attaches to his pauldron. That's a like one intact piece. And then all this webbing and stuff from the tank attaches to this pauldron. So you could pop the head off and take all of it off and just have I guess a flame trooper without the flame kit if you wanted that for some reason. But, you know, that's all attached, so that could come off in one piece, and then you'd have the trooper underneath. I'm not going to do that here because I feel like that would just be sort of a pain in the butt. The figure also includes this really nice detailed flame piece, which attaches to the end nozzle here. See if I can get this to work just in the first try. There we go. It attaches just like that. Looks really, really cool. And then once you bring up the second hand, let's see if he can actually like be displayed with this. Because it is a little bit front heavy. It's definitely a big chunk of plastic to have setting out there in the front of the figure. But if you kind of, there we go. And yeah, I mean, he will stand up with this. You have to kind of play with the feet and get the posing just right to make sure he's balanced. This is a lot of weight to have just coming off the front of the figure like that. But he can stand up with it, and it does look really, really cool to have him just blasting a jet of flames like that. But for the sake of the rest of this review, we will take that off. But that's really cool. It's great that they were able to make it lightweight enough to not totally ruin the stand of this figure where he wouldn't be able to stand up on his own, you know. Now, as for this figure's design and paint apps, it's kind of a hit and miss in some ways. I love the color, I love the patterning, it's nice and detailed, it seems accurate to the show, you know, all the different little areas that are now red, the striping on the legs there. It seems accurate, it looks pretty good, but I have to complain or gripe or, I don't know, I just have to mention that the weathering is atrocious in most places. He's basically an all-white shiny stormtrooper, and yet the weathering on the paint is like huge globby chunks taken out, and it just looks very sloppy and kind of bad. Like they really just went a little overboard, kind of like with my review on the Stormtrooper Commander. I would have just appreciated if they'd left it plain. You know, they just left it as a brand new unweathered trooper, and then if you wanted to, as a customizer myself, you know, you could come in and you could weather it yourself. It just seems like whenever Hasbro does weathering, it's subpar. It kind of looks bad, I guess. It's definitely not, you know, high quality weathering, and ultimately I feel like it takes away from the detail of the figure, but that's my personal opinion, my personal preference with figures. I'm sure some people look at it and have no issue with it, so, you know, I just want to point that out. But if you like it and you're fine with how it looks, hey, good on you, man. It's whatever. It's all your personal preference in how you want your figures to look right out of the box. Now, of course, there is one other small, maybe large gripe for me, and that is the head, the helmet. If you guys have seen anything on like social media, you kind of know what's up already. This has been posted everywhere. There is a unpainted clone trooper head under there. A Tamora Morrison head sculpt, similar to the Captain Rex removable head sculpt. And it's glued into the helmet, and as you can kind of see from this one, it kind of makes the helmet deformed just a little bit. So it's actually off-center. The nose is somewhere over here, so it's kind of warped the helmet. You can see that a little bit. It's not as bad. This is definitely not really that bad. There's a little bit of unevenness. It's not bad. I could actually probably get away with not removing the head, but I probably will. I'll just heat this up in like boiling water and pull the helmet off and then put it back on and put it back on correctly. But yeah, this has been kind of an ongoing problem with the new Clone Trooper and Stormtrooper molds. There's a head under there, and why is there a head under there? I don't understand. But yeah, I mean, it could be worse. I've seen some really warped ones on Instagram, so I'm not complaining that much. It just is a really weird choice, and Hasbro has not addressed it at all. They haven't like come out and said, oh hey, we're planning to do something with this. They've just kept releasing figures with that same design. It's a little strange. And yeah, actually you can kind of see it the most here on these like fins on the side, like the cheek fins. So that right there is kind of bulging out, and here it's kind of sunken in. It's strange. It's very, very strange. But still, this mold is definitely superior to the previous one. Now, as for articulation, let's talk about that. We have a ball joint up in the head as well as a ball joint down in the torso, so you actually have quite a bit of motion that you can get out of this. Without the pauldron, of course, it would be more dramatic how much range you'd actually have. You got forward, you've got back. This is kind of coming off. It doesn't really want to stay on that well, but it should if you just kind of pop that back in. There we go. So yeah, a lot of articulation there in the head, left, right, all that good stuff. Really good range of motion there, like that new articulation. Here at the shoulder, you actually have a butterfly, so you can hinge it back and roll it forward, as well as, of course, you have the swivel that lets you get up and around. The shoulder pauldrons are now attached to that butterfly joint in there, so that actually gives you quite a bit more articulation out of the shoulders, and it's also more realistic to the original costumes. So you can still, of course, get it up to 90 degrees. That will flex out of the way without a problem, and it will still come back down. I like that improvement on the previous one. Here you can see this was actually attached, and so you really could not get any outward at the shoulders. Now you have a full range, and you can get up to basically 90 degrees. That's a huge improvement right there. At the elbows, you have a single joint with a hinge and a swivel, so you can hinge it up past 90 to right there, and then you can swivel it all the way around just like that. At the wrists, standard hinge and swivel, swivel, hinge in and out, and then on this hand, hinge up and down. Down at the torso, we have a ball joint, so you can get some good side to side, forward and back. Very nice. And then the hips, got a ball joint and a thigh swivel, so you can actually get a pretty good outward. You can get pretty good forward, actually really good forward, and then really good back as well, which is nice. And then of course that armor will swivel around just to give you a little bit more. And then the nice thing, the best thing about this figure, I gotta say, is the swivel at the knees. So, you know, if your leg's up like this is going off at a weird angle. If you bend that joint, then it's weird, right? But they added a simple swivel at the knee, which allows you to do that. That is amazing. I mean, I know it's not like revolutionary. It's not reinventing the wheel, and apparently this pops off too. Okay then. It's not revolutionary, but what it does do is it improves upon this design, which is the old Stormtrooper, which you could get the leg up, but at this double jointed knee, you couldn't swivel that down. And so let's say you want to do like an action pose where he's crouching, you know, in combat or whatever. His knee's going to go off at a 45-degree angle, and you can't swivel that back. There was no way to make like an action pose with this figure where he's kneeling and crouched. Now, with this new articulation, we are able to do that with no problem at all. He can get into a crouching position just like that with no problem. The armor is just kind of skewed off to the side just a little bit, but that is probably the biggest improvement with this figure, and it is amazing. It is perfect. So yeah, there's a swivel there, there's a hinge there, so it goes all the way around, comes out, bends. Pretty good articulation there. Really awesome improvement to the old Stormtrooper mold. Then down at the foot, of course, you have a hinge forward, back, and rocker, just like that. Pretty standard, and that is that. That is all the articulation on this figure. I gotta say, it is a really, really solid new mold for the Black Series. I think this vastly, vastly outmatches all of the previous Stormtrooper molds, although there was really only ever one with the Black Series, but it surpasses that with ease. Even with the warped helmet and some of the issues with the paint apps that I have, I think that this is just a really, really perfect figure in terms of articulation, sculpt, all of that. It just matches so well with the on-screen character and lends itself really nicely to dynamic posing as well as like toy photography like what I do. Now here he is next to the standard Stormtrooper, and we'll just bump them over here and also include, this is your old Stormtrooper mold. This is the same with the Sand Troopers, the Stormtroopers, anything that came out prior to this mold right here was in this mold, and as you can see, they're about the same height, which is good. They all would fit in pretty well. You know, if you have some of these guys and, you know, you want to keep them in your collection, I think that these guys will blend in very nicely. I don't think that it's a matter of this one or this one. You can blend them together in your collection pretty seamlessly. I personally just preferred these so much that I decided to get rid of all but a few of this older Stormtrooper mold. But that's just my personal preference, and, you know, it's all entirely up to you guys as to how you want to proceed with your collection. But I don't think that there's much else to say about this figure. I think it's really solid. Like I said, it's going to be a hit, so if you can find it online or in stores, definitely pick it up. And, you know, it's an army builder, so those usually sell the fastest out of like a new wave when it comes into the stores. So definitely get this one if you can. But that's where I'm wrapping this video up, guys. So thanks for watching. Leave a like, comment, whatever you guys feel like doing. I appreciate each and every one of you who is subscribed and comes back to watch these weird random reviews that I do on this channel. It means a lot to me. As always, there's a link down in the description to my social media, my merch site, and that's it. And then also my P.O. box. If you guys want to send anything into the channel, I'll unbox it here on the channel and do a video on it. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you all in the next video.